less than or equal to 7. So domain is x, which is less than or equal to 7, and a range. Okay, so here's the domain. So the range is going to be x is going to be a range is going to be x is less than or equal to 2. X is going to be less than or equal to 2. Okay, so it's not going to be a range with the x, it's going to be with a y. Y is going to be less than or equal to 2. So if you're going to look at this something like, you don't really need to look at like what a graph is, but you can make a graph if you want to, right? X has to be less than or equal to 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And Y has to be less than or equal to 2. So 1, 2. Okay, so it's going to be less than 2 and less than or equal to 7. So let's just kind of do something like that, right? I don't really know what the graph looks like. Now, the important thing that I want you guys to understand is when you're dealing with the inverse, that's going to be reflected about the y equals x line. Okay, so this graph is going to be reflected about this line. What's also important about reflecting about the y equals x line is the domain and range get swapped. So now my domain is going to be, if you were to reflect this, okay, about this line, then this graph is going to be flipped over from there. This graph now, and I'm not really sure exactly the case, but you could say the y is going to less than or equal to a 7, and my range is going to be x is going to be less than or equal to a 2. So what's going to happen is on this graph is we flip it over, which is not really correct, like how it's shown, or it doesn't really look good in this case, but you 1, 2, come on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then over 2, and it would look like this from on there. So you can see how it's not really great and perfect in that regard, but you can see exactly kind of how that's how it's kind of being reflected about that line. And the main thing though is that the domain and range are being swapped. Okay, so you can see how those things are being swapped from that grid.